Greg Marsh, betterEyesightNow.com, and I want to go over the books that are quote-unquote required for the vision coach training. And I realize I need to soften that word required to recommended. Just in the last few years, our whole culture has gotten different about whether people read, what they read, and how much they read. So this time more than ever before, a lot of people have said, wow, do I really have to read all that stuff? No. And always my premise has been what you're doing is you're befriending some really good resources, and that takes a little bit of reading or a little bit of examination, or at least what I want to do now is go through the 10 books that are listed, starting with this coaching book. It's a very simple book. It's only 100 pages, and I just love it. I've done coach trainings of different sorts myself, of where I've learned different approaches, and usually they're more like therapy, or they're more, you've got to do a lot of exploration, and you've got to learn a whole bunch of new skills and that. And this one I think you'll like it really a lot. One of the basic premises is that you help a person find a success they've already accomplished in their life, and now they're leveraging that into success with their eyesight, which, if you don't already realize, you'll realize soon that to have success with your eyesight, you have to let go of some of the stressors in your life. It's all mapped together, because your vision of what you see in your life and your vision of your eyes they reflect each other. So this book is just wonderful, and it's worth rereading every few months, and it has a lot of ways of how to phrase things, which coaching is always about that, like making I statements, active listening. These are some of the core aspects of coaching. Anyway, this book, I'd have to put it up to the required level. I forget exactly the cost. It's like $19, so the price per page is very high, but it's wonderful. This is another one that you just really want to have. There are a lot of different versions of this book, and they start out really cheap on Amazon, or you can get a Kindle version. But this is Louise Hay's wonderful book, Heal Your Body. And it's got a lot of alphabetic conditions, what's a probable cause, and that's like emotional, spiritual, and what's a new thought pattern, which is like an affirmation, basically, to help resolve that. So let me see if I can find eyes, just to give examples. Ears, elbow, Epstein-Barr, eye problems. So astigmatism, she makes a pun with it. Eye trouble, fear of really seeing the self. We have some other versions of astigmatism I really like too. Cataract, inability to see ahead with joy. The future looks dark. And these, they're kind of a guideline. They're like a reference point. They're kind of fun at the very least, and sometimes pretty instructive. So this book, it's just wonderful. I think you'll find yourself pulling it out like Laura and I do for just about everything. If you have an affliction yourself, or if you have a friend that has something, just as a way of kind of giving them mental support, even just noticing, well, what could it be? We even pull this out when our cats have problems. So this book by Margaret Corbett is, let's see, it's 200 and some pages. It's interesting. You can tell when it was written because it has a chapter from World War II called The Bates Work in the war effort. So, so Margaret Darst Corbett, was a student of Dr. Bates. She studied with Dr. Bates. She created a school that was quite popular. I wish she'd left more tracks, as we'll talk about some in the training. She was harassed quite a bit because of the times that she was in by state optometry boards. And Aldous Huxley famously, the author of Brave New World, he famously studied with her and even testified at one of his trials. Okay, I'll tell you the short version. She was on trial for what she was doing and to shut her down and maybe worse consequences. And they saw the jurors during a break. The jurors were all off in the corner doing this. So she knew at that point things looked pretty good. Anyway, what I like about this book is she writes beautifully. The best way to give human eyes the rest of utter darkness is through the great discovery of palming. Eyes, even the most normal ones, do need rest. Anyway, she just writes very much from the heart. It's very, very relaxing even just to read it. So this is, again, I wish she'd left more tracks about just the techniques and nuances of what she did. But this is a wonderful book. And the next book I've got here is Janet Goodrich. And she wrote a book that was for adults too. This is a more recent compilation of her thoughts. And even though it's, how to improve your child's eyesight naturally, it's just a wonderful, wonderful book about, how glasses come about, what emotions are involved, how to work with eye doctors. I love this. It shows her different pictures. Let's see, there she is as a little girl. And, she looks all happy, Janet. And then there she is at age 11. And just, she's showing, the whole life was gone out of her eyes, out of her being. And then here she is. She's pretty well committed by her high school picture. And I don't think I have it in this book. I think it's in a different book. But she kind of got her bounce back then later. So anyway, this book is wonderful. It's an amazing resource. And, you don't have to read these things like while we're meeting. I'll give little assignments more, again, to befriend the books. So, okay, now this book, I'll give you a little folklore. Tom Quackenbush, I studied with him, and he held up the book. He was going through all these different Bates teachers through time, and he said, and me, I wrote the biggest book. So this is it, and it's 500 pages. But when I do assign it, I guess you might have already seen what parts I'm recommending, the parts about the principles and the techniques, which I think is about 150 pages. And even those, in the spirit of Bates, you don't want to strain to learn. You more want to absorb. And if your style is more skimming and then stopping when you see something interesting, that's fine. So this book you don't have to get. Actually, so the have to so far, that coaching book and the Louise Hay book, I just can't believe you wouldn't be thrilled with it when you get it. The Margaret Corbett book is just, highly recommended, not absolutely must have. It's dirt cheap, used on Amazon. The Janet Goodrich book, you can probably find this used. I think this is now available in a Kindle book too, the Margaret Corbett. So Tom Quackenbush's book, I don't think is available as a Kindle. The reason I like it is it kind of alternates. It talks in Tom's, kind of modern day description, and then it quotes from Bates, and it's just a really complete picture of how the Bates method works, how it came about, what Bates was thinking, how it bumps into today's understandings with optometrists and ophthalmologists, and it has a nice picture of maybe Mount Rainier on the front. So here's a couple of books that have different qualities. This one by Jacob Lieberman, you might have heard of him, or you might have even read this book, Take Off Your Glasses and See. This book was written about 20 years ago, and Jacob Lieberman's still alive and doing what he does in Hawaii, although he's gotten more and more esoteric about things. So he gets into some of the Bates method, and he talks a lot about what he calls open focus, and he talks a lot about finding ease and different very subtle pathways into eyesight improvement. He also gets into his very inspiring story of how he made use of the trampoline, the mini rebounder, to have a real breakthrough. And then this book was written, I think, in the late 50s. This is a reissue of the book with a new title. It's by Clara Hackett, who didn't study directly with Bates, but I think through Clara Hackett, she became pretty skilled. She also had some obvious influence from behavioral optometrists. She has a lot of things in about fusion, and I think she'll persuade you that doing some fusion work, or having clients do some fusion work, like the string with the beads on it, where you focus on this string, this string, this string. And she has a lot of other techniques about fusion. So just because you want to know, this is like 276 pages. And it starts out and goes through different aspects and different techniques. And then she gives some suggested particular techniques for nearsightedness, farsightedness, and even she gives specific ones for so-called eye diseases. This is a great book when you're going to be meeting with somebody, if indeed you want to do vision coaching, which of course you don't have to. But if you coach others, sometimes this will build your confidence a little bit. But on the other hand, personally, as you'll know, as we train together, personally, I always like to go as much as possible as I can towards, listening in the moment and what the person can use. And personally, I like to shy away from formulaic, but it's a big wide world, and a lot of different approaches actually can work. So now, these are Bates, and I saved them till last. I can't imagine you wouldn't want to have this book by Bates. However, this book is condensed, and you can get the online version of it for free, the full version. And this was condensed by, I believe, by Bates's wife, Emily, and maybe even Margaret Corbett. So about 40% of the book is missing, but it's still a very powerful book. And this is the popular version that's been out for quite a few years, 1968, maybe. So this book goes through a lot of Bates. What's here is original. If you and you can find this used if you want it inexpensive. If you want to look at the online version, one example of where you can go is central-fixation.com. And there you can, this is a big book here. And this is right Tom Quackenbush even a bigger book. What he did was he compiled all of the, this is what, 600, 700 pages. He compiled all of 11 years of monthly Better Eyesight magazines that Bates put out. And it's wonderful. Bates died in 1931, and this was started in 1919. So it's old, but a lot of it feels very contemporary. Like this is by Emily, his wife. One evening while treating some patients, this is random, while treating some patients in my home, baby Ethel, age 3, who'd been living with us for over 2 years, came into the room. Anyway, she has large blue eyes and she's excited or interested in anything. And when I told one of the patients to palm for 10 minutes, Ethel placed her hands over her eyes also. Anyway, they're really sweet stories. And like if you've been having trouble, your coffee table is starting to float away, this will help hold it down. Anyway, it's one of those books that you can open any page and it's like, wow, this is great. Most of them are pretty short, so they're probably about half of the things are written by Bates himself and half are by either Emily or some other guest writer. And then there's an amazing index in the back. So, like if you're looking for cataract, just if you can see this, that's an example. Cataract goes down all the way. Just a ton of cross references there that Tom Quackenbush, and I think he had some help on this, put together. One thing to watch out for on this is that Tom did do some editing, and some of it he did to try and protect us from Dr. Bates's, some of the things he did, like with sunning. He had people look directly into the sun, which by today's standards would be, don't do that. We'll talk about that a little bit. But it's a shame to have it edited and you don't really know where. But anyway, it's mostly true here. And he also has a few little inserts, which he puts in little brackets, and he'll say something to help you understand how it fits with today. So this book, there's another version. She used to sell it for over $100, and now I think she sells it for $30 or $35. If you go to the website visionsofjoy.org, Esther Vanderwerf, she has a lot of very nice resources. And one of the things she's done is she's made a PDF of this whole thing. And so it's searchable. But that's a little tricky too. It's not quite a Kindle, and it's not quite a Word document or a PDF where you can select something and copy and paste it. It's all those little PDF boxes. But as far as like reading it, you can jump through. And again, like if you're looking for cataracts or you're looking for different versions of the swing, it's very nice to go through and look for things. And one thing you'll know is that Esther has been completely pure, completely true. It's the original document. So that thing from Esther is available only as a downloadable version. Another place that's pretty easy to work with, but they only have maybe 60% of these magazines, is that same centralfix-fixation.com. And there's a few resources there that you'll find about the Bates method. Just look under the tab that says library. And then what's really cool about that is if they do have the article you're looking for, it's really easy to search. The guy who hosts the website has put up a really nice search feature. And you can either search this separately, or you could search, like Bates' book and the Better Eyesight magazines, and you can search everything all at once. And once you find it, you can once you find what you're looking for, you can actually copy it, select it, and paste it. And see, these Better Eyesight magazines are out of copyright, so you can freely use things for whatever you need them for. So that's, let's see, where's the Grace Halloran book? I meant to show that. Okay. Okay, I don't have it right in my hand. But another book that I had listed is Grace Halloran. Unfortunately, I keep thinking it must be here. Unfortunately, that book, it's out of print, and if you want it, it's going to cost you like $18 plus $4 of shipping on Amazon. And the reason, originally when I first started suggesting getting this book, you could get it for like $3 or $5. But it's a very nice story about a woman who improved her own eyesight, and a lot of what she did because she was concerned about her son getting the same afflictions. And if you want to find it, maybe even in a library or something, it's a very rich story of how emotions affect and can cause, but also can help heal eyesight. And then it also gets into, maybe you've heard of microcurrent stimulation. It's like a TENS unit that you use on an injury, and it pulses electrically. Well, there's a microcurrent version of that you can actually put cotton pads on your eyes, and there are a few different proponents of that, and some people have had success, especially with macular degeneration. And that the credit for connecting those dots actually goes back to Grace Halloran. She was quite a force. So the name of that book is Amazing Grace. And that's really all I wanted to say about these books. And my message is, no, you don't have to read all the books. I want you to enjoy this course, and I want us all together to keep coming back to that reference, that frame of reference of Bates, to do things in a way where we're letting things in and inviting things in, information, rather than trying to go out and conquer it. So let's see. That's it. That's all I wanted to say about the books. If you have any questions, let me know.